Welcome one and all, my name is Tawess, and today, well, first and foremost, we have a new desk space. You see more of my desk, the horrible mess that it is. This is a WarHawk. It's a great mech. We're gonna paint it, and we're gonna paint it in the colors of the Turkina. It's got Keshik. I never can remember these things. Turkina, I think it's Turkina. Yeah, Turkina Keshik, which basically means jade green and some lime green stripes. Yeah, I know it looks a bit blue here, but trust me, this one is actually more turquoise. When we're still working on getting the colors corrected with the new camera. So yeah, we're gonna be laying down some basic thorough turquoise base. I mean, you know how this goes. Just grab your thickest brush and your happiest place and start dousing things. Next up is a wash. I have added a bit of water to this and intentionally, this might sound weird, intentionally actually added some a tiny special dirty brush water, because this is non-oil gloss and it's very gloss. I don't want it to be all that gloss. A bit gloss, but not all the gloss. So I dulled it down a bit. Some people would say yes, grab regular non-oil, and I would grab regular non-oil if it wasn't for the fact that I spilled the entire pot of non-oil on the floor. So I don't have any at this point. I know, professional. Always a consummate professional. On the brighter side of things, it didn't stain the carpet, so it's always something good. Now, the reason why we hit it with this is to bring down the sharpness of the color. It's a very vibrant color, and I want it to be a bit more muted. And it's also one of these colors that it's very blue. I didn't realize this. It's not I promise it's not that blue in reality. In reality, it is a more greenish color. Sorry about that. Anyway, we're gonna have to work on color grading this thing up, because right now it's not color grading at all. But I got a new camera. I got a little GoPro that we're using to film this, meaning that we got a much better quality, and we got much better focus-ish. Now, we'll see if it turns out in the long run, but it is improvement at least. Now, with this done, we go in and bring the lightness up again with a brighter turquoise green, and we're going to go over all the panels for this, making sure that we have it nice and balanced. Very thin coats, almost a wash almost. Layering it up slowly, because it is nice and it gives a bit of control, because basically this is a lot of panels, and we're going to try to avoid panel lining in this case, because well, it's fun to actually every now and then change things up a bit. So we're going to try and avoid panel lining it. Instead, we're going to go and just paint all the panels very carefully, because it can be a bit edging it, though still not in that way. Get your mind out of the gutter. Basically, by going over the edges of the panel again, creating a stronger color, giving the sensation of actually being fully painted. I mean, you could of course go in and highlight it too, panel line it too. It's not bad in a stretch. Edge highlighting, panel lining, just going in and making sure that you have the desired crispness to it. Me, I'm going to leave it at this, because this is looking good. The inspiration for this is slightly, I should say murky, but it has a toned down, not so vibrant sensation to it. So I'm trying to keep it at that, making it feel good, but not like crazy. Yeah, so you can see it's starting to make difference. We are going to continue putting on more layers slowly, carefully. Making sure that we get all the nice edges and all the nice flat surfaces, basically. Keeping things on the up and up. Now the WarHawk, if we want to talk a bit about the mech itself, while we do this. The WarHawk, also the Massacre, is a very angry mech. I know I said about many of them, but this one is a big, it's just a box on legs. And it's been around as a forerunner, sort of nice poster mech. Not really a poster mech, but it's been in the forefront for a lot of years. For these many years I've been playing mechwarrior games. The WarHawk has always been there, doing things. Quad PPC, I think it is, runs fairly hot. Run quad lasers, a lot of energy weapons, and has a missile rack on top. Can attack at most ranges. Scary mech. And well, the only real way to beat it is to get up really close and run around it in circles, because it's a big and slow mech. But the clans don't think that way. It's honor duels before everything. It's like, yeah, okay, fine, you do it your way. I'm gonna place a pair of generous in your back, and then we're gonna have a field day. Because that's what you do. You place a pair of generous in the back, maybe a Hollander, a few commandos. Let's toss in a Raven too, just been on the safe side. But yeah, making sure the cockpit window is properly painted, and here you can see this, like how I, by washing the edges, got this nice color shift. Not color shift, because something yet, but shift in color, making sure you see the panels and they look good, but they're not popping at you. So it's kind of nice. We kind of like that. And if I wanted to, I could also go with this another time with another layer of paneling. For example, if you have a very free-flowing ink or a oil wash or something, you could really get in these between these panels and really make them deep. But I think it might be a bit too deep for me. I like this, not too deep, not too gnarly look. But yeah, if you have an oil wash, or if you don't like doing oil washes, there is a really good product coming from the Gundam building scene, which actually acts the same way, using capillary action to just pull itself along all the panel lines. Really good product. Not too expensive. A bit too expensive for my taste, but not too expensive. I kind of like it. What I'm doing here basically is putting on a white and then outlining it in darker grey. Meaning that once we put the contrast paint over it, it will have some color difference, extra color difference, because sometimes the medium or small areas doesn't really line up, as you will see here. Basically, we apply this, water down a bit, and it doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. If you just put flat white, it's just going to be flat. Now, with the sort of outlines of grey, we get a bit more contrast to our contrast paints. We also mix a bit of red and go over the edges again with a darker orange, making sure that, again, just to deepen the sensation that light hitting this glass square is actually not penetrating to all the same depth. Glass does this. It's a nightmare. But anyway, that is pretty much what it is for that. Not much else you can do. We go over a few more areas, making sure things are looking spiffy. We painted the gun silver and we paint the grills silver. Just picking out a few details, making sure that we're happy. This is a nice thing to do. These details, not big details, but a tiny bit of details actually goes a long way, to be honest. It's one of these things, you know. And of course we go in and clean up the window a bit with a dark darken down turquoise, making sure that the windows isn't splashed off the place, because that is a problem when you work with contrast paints, is that sometimes they like to have a bit of capillary action on their own, spread out. Spread out. We don't want them to spread out. Spreading out is bad. And as I said before, I say it again, I tend to like to paint my weapons silver because it makes it easier to identify what is actually a weapon. On some mechs, you need that. On the Massacre, the WarHawk, perhaps a bit overkill because you don't really need it on that one. But it's still nice. It's still a good thing to have. And of course, we paint the feet because you don't need to paint the feet. I was considering if there's some basing effect on it too, but we just paint them silver to begin with. Some people don't do that, but in my mind, if there is one place on a mech that is going to be put through constant wear and tear, it's the feet. So it doesn't make much sense in constantly have to repaint the feet. No, you leave them silver, scratch them up a bit, put some nice dark wash on them, and it makes a lot more sense. I mean, unless you're painting your mech for parade, then I guess you could paint the feet too. But anytime else, painting the feet doesn't feel right to me. Personal choice, but it's my personal choice to do that. Not much to do about that. It's silver. We're finishing up the details, getting some silver on the... basically the giant screws holding the arms in. I know they're not technically screws, but they look like screw heads. And it always has been this. I didn't like it. It's big screws holding the arms in. I guess in a way they are, but, you know, not like that. I mean, it's looking pretty good, actually. I would say it's probably at the level of I could just plop this down on a table now and be happy with it. But as I mentioned before, the Turkina WarHawk does have this thing of having lines of lime color on their mechs. So we are going to look into that, which leads to my personal favorite when it comes to painting things, which is freehand pinstriping. If you don't know what pinstriping is, it's basically you take a brush, you load up paint, and you paint lines carefully and slowly. And I don't do things carefully and slowly, but sometimes you need to do it anyway. It's things that has to be done sometimes. Not much to do about it. Yeah. I'm curious about what I would do next with this. Should I put these painting videos? Should I put more like careful lore implications with, or should I just stay rambling and painting mechs? I don't know. You know these things. How do you do what you do? Nobody knows. So it's sort of easy, just painting a band of the guns, because it's nice using some stone golem for that. And it's a nice and easy, quick thing to do. Gives a bit of impact on the otherwise very much just silver. But then comes the legs and the ever so careful painting. Now, my trick for this is basically resting the entire operation on the pinky finger. So use that to stabilize the hand and then try to move the arm. Hand are great for small movements, but slow, steady movements. Try to move the entire arm for that. Much better, to be honest. But yeah, we're just basically making sure that we have all the little bits and pieces done. And it's not a bad look. I think I did fairly well actually for freehanding. Just make sure that paint is runny but not thin when you do this, because thin means you apply more coats. The ideal here is to just do 1 or 2 coats. So keep it moist. Keep it viscous, not too viscous. Keep it very free flowing, so you can actually get it to flow properly. Otherwise, you'll have different difficulty controlling it. And that goes actually for all freehanding. A point paint that is easy to apply but still thick enough to cover is ideal. And yeah, then it's just repeating this procedure. As you can see, the tip of the brush is really loaded up. And it was a bit too loaded up even, so I take some off before I start applying it very carefully. You have to be determined, but you can't press too hard. You have to be light but firm when you do this. Very much so. You can also mask things off. Not much for masking. Yeah. Two nice little lines can be applied there. Not much else to do about that. I'm not going the entire way around the arm because I feel that it's a bit overkill in this case. I should probably do it, but I won't do it. I just stop at the inner side of the arm. Save myself a bit of a headache. Because sometimes you need to do that. But yeah, nice contrasting little bands there. Again, surprisingly good. Surprised myself. They usually don't end up this straight, but they did in this case. Unfortunately, don't have a good view how I hold the brush. I should that off sometimes because basically I use the lower hand as a counterbalance. So for the pinky finger at the bottom and then making sure that it's all balanced. So now the reason we use white here is we don't have to do a lot of coats of yellow or green, in this case yellowish green, because all the yellows cover like poo. And not the good kind of poo either. So we put it on the white first and then just gently paint over it. Not only does this give you a bit of leeway, because you can actually fudge it a bit on the edges. It's easy to clean up, but also make sure you get a nice crisp line. Because it's good. So yeah, make sure you have a white base before you apply anything yellow. This is common knowledge, but it's always good to repeat because sometimes you forget it. And you can vary the effect by changing the color of warm white, but in essentially white. And some think that maybe you always go with a pure white. You should not always go with a pure white. Depending on what you want the yellow to do. Me, I want mine to catch a bit of the blue, so I'm using Stone Golem, that is a very bluish grey. Still white in appearance, but bluish grey. If I used a pure white, it would have much sharper contrast, but it would also be less bluish. And I could use something like Mummy Rose, something that is a warmer, almost reddish grey-white. And then I would have a slight orange tint at the bottom. Sometimes that works well, sometimes you don't want that. So another thing you should experiment with is different whites. Because it's good to know these things. Color theory, how color interacts. Although, I have to say, as good as thing as color theory is when working with model paints, don't take it as a gospel, because a lot of these paints are impure to a silly degree. So you think you're going to mix two colors and get this should be this, and what comes from your palette? Not the same thing. So keep on experimenting is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, we are nearing the end of this video. We are pretty much just going to apply some more Nuln Oil to the guns and the feet, and then I'm going to show you the beauty shots. So, until next time, stay safe, be kind, and do play fair. Bye.